Hey pasa gente, bienvenido a Lucha Talk. I'm your host Dylan Fox. This is episode 163 of our show, and joining me once again to talk lucha this month, the year of our Lord, to my virtual right, as always, the man, the myth, and the producer, Microman Fever, back at it again after a little bit of a break, but not as long as.
Yeah, good to be back, back again for another show. And lots of stuff has developed.
There was so much going on, too. You had my birthday happen in the past month. I went to a show live, NXT. The Super Bowl came in there. They're building up all kinds of stuff, that we're going to talk about in Lucha Libre. And, I think this month especially, this show here, there's so much along the whole world that maybe weren't even tuning into Lucha for a long time. It's gotten this big buzz almost seemingly out of nowhere. It all happened so fast. I can't wait to get into it with you. So, with that said, and we will get into everything going on with AEW and CMLL in the future. But first, I do want to go back a little bit, pull it back a little bit. We're at the end of the month of February. We want to go back a little bit earlier to the start. This is a chronological show as it goes. AAA, there's so much to unravel with this company right now. But if you didn't know, if you didn't watch, if you didn't tune in, they had a pretty major show in the history of their company. Rey de Reyes, which is obviously their tournament that they have every year in various formats. They've changed it over the years, actually, in many different ways. They did have their show this month, and the thing with AAA right now, we were talking about it a little bit off the air. We are basically dealing with the rise of the clones. This is the era we're in right now. There's so many different gimmicks that are changing, so many different people that left, and now they're just handing off their gimmicks to new people. And that's something that's been done in AAA a lot before. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying it's never happened. Obviously, like one of their biggest stars, La Parka, was a secondary character to the original La Parka. But it just seems like right now they are just creatively bankrupt. The thing in Cancun shut down. They just don't know what to do. So they're just giving out all of these old gimmicks to new people and hoping it works. And then you see something like this show here at Rey de Reyes. You're going back to the same people. There were no other options. You had Vikingo win again. And unfortunately, we'll talk about his injury. Even on this match, it looks like he injured another guy, Teano Jr., but then later on, he got hurt, unfortunately. So Lady Shani and Hijo del Vikingo at the top of the women's and men's divisions in the Rey de Reyes and Reina de Reinas. Once again, just like old times. What'd you think?
Yeah, they're sticking with that retro theme and bring all the clones back in. So that's AAA at its finest. And, sticking with the same people that they've usually done in recent memory, Vikingo and Lady Shani. Even with the return of Fabi, they immediately switched over to drop a new angle there with Dallas making the run-in after the match. Randomly, out of nowhere, comes running out with a cookie sheet and attacks Fabi. I don't think anyone that was watching Lucha had this as a dream match. Dallas versus Fabi, but Conan's got the vision, so it's good.
The vision. Who is your dream match with Dallas versus anyone? I agree with the silence. There is no one. They're completely correct.
Yeah, Dallas is not. If I want to watch wrestling, I'm not gonna look for Dallas matches to watch. Fabi, maybe, but definitely not Dallas. Not even Lady Shani. But, AAA, I don't know. They're really biting hard on this retro theme. And, it's just the motivation behind all their decisions right now. How they can tie the past in with the current and the future. And, they must think that Dallas is the future of AAA women's division, so they're gonna have her go against Fabi. Even though, what the fans really want is Hijo de Tirantes versus Fabi, and they wanted that for the longest time, and they even teased out there a little bit, but I don't know. I don't know why they didn't go that direction, and they gave that match to Lady Shani. It seems like a mistake, but, we'll see where they go from there.
I guess for that, you're thinking maybe Shani versus Flammer for the women's title.
Yep, totally.
And that's fine. Lady Shani, again, I used to be a fan of hers, even before she got to AAA. I thought she was like a good hardcore type of wrestler. Now, like in AAA now, it definitely, there just isn't a lot to be excited about with this women's division right now. Sexy Star, I think you got something with her. I think that of everybody in the women's division, she shows some things. Flammer's a good worker. Fabi, always great, even though she's, again, a little older now. Yeah, but she's always like, it feels right to have her in AAA, honestly. Like, the time she came to CMLL, she wrestled good when she was in Arena Mexico. It just felt weird to have her there, to be honest with you. So it's at least setting some stuff up with legacy characters. The match, obviously not a lot to write home about, to be honest with you, but it is what you're going to get. A lot of these matches, you're not going to tune into AAA for dream matches with anybody at this point. Like, even if you have a good worker here and there, I don't think there's anybody you could point to that would be a great thing. Do you remember anything about the semi-main event with Takuma and SBK and another clone with the fake Bengala now? And how many Bengalas have there been in AAA?
I think that's the most cloned character besides Mystico.
Yeah, and not only that, there's also a fifth Bengala in CMLL as we speak as well. So it's like we can never find out. But yeah, this is like the fourth or fifth one in AAA. The last one was like Arcangel Divino, right? On there. Who, that didn't work out, to say the least. So now we've got a new one here.
I mean, this isn't really like that enticing the fans. Like, they don't want to see like their past favorites versus like these new clones. They want to see like new stars, and I think that's kind of a mistake that they're making right now, is trying to just keep these IPs alive and their trademarks alive by giving them the new people. But that's AAA. Like, they kind of like lazy like that.
Yeah, what you said is so true. Like, all of this ultimately is about to keep the trademarks to themselves and to keep it open, and they're doing it this way. I will say Mr. Iguana looked like looked pretty good in that match, and SBK and Takuma are always good to have on the shows. Like, I don't sense that they're like big stars or anything, but I do think when you see them wrestle, they're like automatically two of the best workers in AAA. Any match they're in is better for having them in it. And I thought they had good chemistry with Iguana there. The new Bengala didn't impress too much, in my opinion. But regardless, that led to the men's Rey de Reyes final match here. They had the qualifying matches earlier on in the show. It all led to Laredo Kid, Tejano Jr., and Hijo del Vikingo in this match here. And like I said, there was a big spot with the injury on like a shooting star press on Vikingo onto Tejano. Yeah. And he, that kind of took everybody out of the match. But when it came down to just Vikingo and Laredo Kid, I actually thought they did a really good job. It kind of elevated the match. I think Laredo Kid is like, he doesn't get the love online that Vikingo does, and he's not obviously a spectacular, but I think he's like a way more well-rounded wrestler, actually. I really think Laredo Kid's kind of underrated and a really good worker, and I thought they worked well together. The sole highlight, I think, of this whole show.
Yeah, the match I thought was really strong, really, really good. Vikingo, once again, he's their guy, he's their tough star. And he should have won out of these three, but he could make the case for Laredo Kid to win this and force a title match on the later show with Vikingo. That also would have been a great outcome. Yeah, the match really great. One of the best AAA matches in a while, actually. And Vikingo, he looked great, even though it is noticeable that one of his knees or legs or hips has problems going on with it. Laredo Kid, what you said about him is true. I think he does as a complete performer, and Yeah, people don't kind of credit him like they should, but he also, when he gets to work outside AAA, it's usually to make other people look good, and
True.
it's really hard to stand out or get to the next level when you're doing that.
Well, it worked well enough for Taurus, at least, since now he got to AEW. He's another guy that made everybody look good for a long time. And there's another fake Taurus as well in AAA, another clone that we have here.
Yes.
So much so, before we get to Taurus, I just want to mention, Aerostar was on this show, and I thought he was a fake Aerostar, like a replacement Aerostar, but nah, he's just a little older. Like, so he wrestles a little different, but I just think, like, nobody's safe in AAA right now. I think anybody could be an imposter the way things are going, and we saw that with the new Black Taurus that has come in. Good for the original Taurus for having the AEW contract. I think he totally deserves it. We don't know what his new, basically the way the thing worked out is basically he's wrapping up his indie date, and then when they put him in AEW, they're going to give him a whole new name and a whole new gimmick, so AAA can have their Taurus for their show, pretty much.
Yeah, and the guy that's the new Taurus was the winner, or one of the winners of that talent search they were having.
Yeah.
And they brought him, his brother also, from IWRG.
Yeah.
Legendario, and the girl wrestler. She won Lady
Wind. Yeah.
Yeah. She's actually really good.
Yeah, she is.
I think if you just watch a match or a few of her matches, you can see the quality that she has.
Yeah, and I have an open mind. I haven't seen, like, the new Taurus has already debuted, but he didn't really make a splash. He was just like on a random undercard match, pretty much. So they're already kind of telling you right away, like, this Taurus. I mean, even the original Black Taurus wasn't like the champion or anything, but they're already telling you, like, hey, this is probably going to be like a mid card type of deal going on, just like all the rest that we have here. So AAA in a bad spot, made worse by Vikingo's injury that just happened recently. It's been reported that this is a meniscus injury that may require surgery, and that he was already injured. It has been for a long time, and this was more or less the straw that broke the camel's back for Vikingo. And they haven't announced that they've stripped him of the title or anything right now. So what do you think they're going to do with this title and Vikingo's future going ahead?
Well, it being AAA makes me think that they want to transition to another champion. They had the way Vikingo won the belt was actually because Kenny was hurt. They were going to have the match, Kenny Omega versus Hijo del Vikingo. And now that Vikingo's injured, I think they're going to do the same thing. And they already had it planned out, who's going to be the next champion. And I think you've seen him booked on the Monterrey shows. And that man is Alberto Del Rio, as people
That's right.
are familiar with. Just the signs I picked up. For me, he's the guy that's going to fit what they want as a champion. I think he gives them what they're looking for. And he's not Vikingo, and he's actually someone that I think a lot of the fans, in Mexico will see as like the champion that Vikingo wasn't. You even have fans, criticizing Vikingo, for being like, one of these flippy wrestlers, like, they'll call them like crickets because, they just jump around. These types of wrestlers, it's kind of sad, but, you see him and you watch him and he's outstanding, but, he doesn't convince every fan. So I think they're going to go with, another route, and you're going to go with Alberto.
I think you're missing a key factor here, and it's somebody who I think the time has come for Cibernetico to become the champion once again and take over AAA with everything he has inside of him, along with Electroshock.
Oh no, not Electroshock.
All of them. That is our Triple Mania main event. Now Cibernetico versus Electroshock.
Wow.
Alberto would definitely get people talking, to say the least, but like you said, in Mexico, he is kind of like a face of the guy. But the thing about him is he's another guy that's an older player at this point. He's in his mid 40s, right? at this point. He hasn't been around in a while. I mean, he's been hanging around, Nation and all that like for that time period. He hasn't really been in the mainstream, but they have brought him back. Obviously, he's boys with Conan, and Conan's gonna want him on the show. That's not a surprise at all. But right now, like you said, if you look at a lot of what they've got going on up and down, whether it's Alberto, Cibernetico, Electroshock is in there. You've got like all the Dark Cuervo and all those guys. They brought those guys back too. Dave the Clown is here. They're bringing all these old type of guys in. Are these the only ones left that will show up to AAA at this point?
I mean, they could plan. Well, there's plenty of more surprises Conan has in store.
Charlie Manson's on a show coming up.
Maybe we'll even see Billy Boy come back.
Oh, that was my dream.
Who else? Well, at first I was like, oh, they got to get Wagner.
What's he up to?
I don't know. He has his successful sons.
Yeah, sons are doing great. they don't want to come to AAA.
I know. He's probably told them to stay away.
Yeah. What if they brought back the original Sexy Star to face another clone?
Oh, right. Yeah, they're gonna. Well, one of the things I heard is that they're gonna do Sexy Star versus Sexy Star.
Yeah.
So that's probably in the works.
You could make a whole show off of the original and then the person that the gimmick got passed to, if they wanted to.
It's the Clone Wars, as we were saying.
That's right. I mean, they've got the Marvel sponsorship. The next step is to get Star Wars on board, get all the old gimmicks, get your Dragos, get your Bengalas, get your Sexy Stars, bring everybody on. And the big swerve will be Alberto facing one of his brothers as well.
They'd probably do that, for real.
I know. I'm not playing around, people.
No, but seriously, one of the people they're gonna bring in is El Macias. So that is gonna be part of that mega championship match, I think.
I only remember him as Gilbert.
Yes.
But no. Macias. I mean, to be fair, these guys are all old now, but they do have a legacy. And I guess, again, you look at it. You look at where AAA is right now. The champion just got injured at the end of the day. We have to keep that in mind. You had the thing in Cancun go down. And that probably cost millions of dollars that they blown. I saw a Cubs fan say it was it may be $10 million and they paid half of it on there. Shout out Cubs fan. I've got a lot of love for that brother. And baseball season is starting, so he's even more vital now. But you lose all this money. Your champion's injured. You're probably just trying to stay afloat at this point more than anything. You probably aren't. These moves are probably not built for the future or anything like that. They're just trying to stay afloat and probably, quite honestly, be a little bit self-indulgent to what Conan wants to get all of his old buddies one last check. And it could be one last because AAA, how long is this going to go on before just the dam implodes and everything just goes under?
Don't you forget they have money, Gillen. Even Conan stated this before.
Okay. Lots of money. Lots of high-powered investors.
Yes. They might, someone else might even be owning AAA right now. We don't know.
I mean, you have to think that they had tried to sell it at some point. Like you said, maybe we don't know the end result of that, but there's a speculation, of course. But you have to think they at least put the effort in there at some point, I would say. So, yeah, AAA, what a weird company right now. And they're always weird, to be honest. But this particular day and time, it's even weirder than usual, I would say. We will see what happens next. Do you have any inklings towards what the major match they could have for Triple Mania?
For Triple Mania, well,
one of their three. They have Monterrey, Tijuana, and Mexico.
Yeah.
But really, the Mexico one is the real one.
The main Triple Mania, no. Well, the big thing that they're promoting, the most important match, it's going to be the retirement match between Vampiro and Conan somehow.
I could totally see that happening, honestly.
Or the farewell match, better said.
What if they both leave after that happens. And then they show up at CMLL.
No way.
Yes. But no, I like in all total honest seriousness, at this point, there's really no direct plan and no sign. This is another problem with AAA a lot of the times. They'll shoot these shows and like nothing ever matters. It never leads to anything on the actual big shows that they have. It's all disjointed and goofy. So let's just say that that's a very much a possibility. Like everything you said with Alberto winning the title, Conan and Vampiro going for the big match at the end in Triple Mania, Mexico City, I could totally buy that happening. But with that said, why don't we move on to CMLL here? Again, we could go in a little bit of chronological order. The big thing before everything that happened, on the North American continent that we're going to talk about was the yearly Fantastica Mania tour. They did it in New Japan. They came in, they sent a bunch of guys there, a bunch of luchadors. To me, we've seen a lot of these guys. I was really more interested in the singles matches. I wanted to see what the big matches were more so than the multi-mans, with all due respect. I mean, listen, I get that you may want to see Pegaso get his time in Japan. You may want to see Defunto. You may want to see Bone Soldier go at it. But for me, I was really looking for the singles matches more than Pegaso and Stigma as a team. But that's just me personally. I'm not judging you if you watched the other ones. In fact, let us know what you thought if you did on there. Maybe I missed something. I'm not claiming to be omnipotent. But what about you? Did you watch anything on this tour? Did you have any favorite matches, or did you stick to the singles matches like I did?
I watched most of the tour. You pick up the whole vibe that Japanese guys there are, they're just goofing off.
And that's another thing I didn't like about this tour, because in the past there's been times where it's like almost all luchadors, but on this year you saw like guys pick up new gimmicks, like Honma had a masked gimmick, Ishimori had the masked gimmick, Hiromu comes in with the gimmick. It's like, man, we want to see the luchadors in Japan. We don't need, Musashi and all these people on here, with all due respect. And I like him specifically. But I just wish they had made it a little bit more authentic. I think that's what the Fantastica Mania crowd wanted.
Yeah, I think so. But, the guys there, I think they just went after more comedy. And tried to involve that in their matches and tried to, take it easy. Yeah, what really caught my eye were those singles matches, and more specifically the last two nights. Those shows were really good. Did you have favorites among those?
Yeah, I will say this before we get that. They did do like this tournament deal, where they had basically like Stuka and Ultimo won, the tournament at the end. But they were doing the tournament. You had Pegaso and Stigma was one of the teams in there. But it all came down to Stuka and Ultimo versus Volador and Magnus Depredadores. But Ultimo could not be defeated in this tour, and they got the win there. The singles matches, when you look at the last two shows, like you said, they really saved the best for last in this Fantastica Mania tour. I was a little disappointed we didn't have any title matches or anything like that. I think that would have helped a lot. But really, not just almost, I liked all the matches, actually, because there were like 6 singles matches. You had Titan and Briante Jr., which was a good little match. That was probably one of the lesser of the 6. But it was a good, like, lightning match style match. And then on the other show, you had Soberano Jr. versus Templario, which was just a completely insane, like, spectacle of moves. You had Soberano. I'm sure you guys saw some GIFs of it if Asahi didn't copyright everything on Twitter. But they bring up, like, they kind of gave you the X guillotine driver on the apron that bounced off into a second driver on the floor. Everyone looked at, which looked devastating, of course. Volador and Rocky, that's like a culmination of not culmination, but they've been at it for over a year now in their feud. So of course you go to that. Probably a little bit of a good booking by Rocky there. That was a good match. I wouldn't say at the top tier of their lineage, but I liked it a lot. And then the last show, the matches I really love. Those are my favorites. Atlantis Jr. and Hechicero and Mascara Dorada and Stuka Jr. I thought both of those matches were awesome. Like, so well rounded. And Like the Soberano and Templario match was the most explosive match, like if you just want moves. But I thought those two matches, Dorada and Stuka and Atlantis and Hechicero, were like all around great, like Lucha Libre at its heart. And I thought both those matches were like awesome, like two of the best matches in Japan all month to me. So those would be the two I would pick. But also, if you're a fan of exciting action, Templario and Soberano, that might be your favorite match. What do you think?
I agree. I think the last two matches were the best by far. For different reasons. They're all like their own flavor. These matches, with the Cicero versus Atlantis Jr. I just thought, this was just masterfully executed, planned out. Just like give credit both these guys. They did really well. You just got this sense that while watching Hechicero, that he's like this special talent. Just he has like this ability to make anyone that loves wrestling like feel like a fan again for like the very first time. Watching this match is amazing. And he really brought it here. He gave Atlantis Jr. his big spots throughout the match, kept him strong, and he knew how to plan it out to have maximum effect for everything. Just a phenomenal match.
I also want to credit Atlantis here. I thought he was so motivated. And there, obviously, he debuted in New Japan originally. I think he's got a connection as a luchador to wrestling hero, especially on this tour. Him and Soberano, I thought were mismatched as a team in the tag league. But here in the singles matches, you really got to see Atlantis, how much he's got in the tank. And obviously Hechicero is like one of the best ever. It seems like sometimes he's like his legacy is growing every night. And this match, totally agree with what you said. He's just an artist in the ring. Like, wow, just so great.
Yep. A phenomenal match. I would say like this is my match of the year right now. And really like worth the price of the sub to watch this. And also like Dorada versus Stuka, that was really great. A different type of match. Just the crowd was, buzzing. And you're really like used to seeing Dorada pull off like these amazing things. But I think Stuka presented like a different type of challenge because, Dorada, he spent like half the match on his back. He was just like taking this crazy beating, and Stuka, I think, just rising to the occasion again, delivering a big match. He was just really strong in this thing and really like coming off like a true villain. Yeah, he did he uncovered the turnbuckle, took the whole pad off and then used it throughout the match in a really smart way. And yeah, like that no look dive he does, he did it here. He stopped doing it for a while because, that's like a technical move, but he busted it out right here. Phenomenal. That was crazy. And, it was just two excellent matches in that last show.
I love the ending where he hit the shooting star press and the visual because Stuka had went after his mask there. So he had the torn up mask and he was still doing the big moves. I wanted to shout out Stuka Jr., man. This is a guy for literally over 10 years. I watched him and I always saw him as like the epitome of a mid-card technical.
Yes.
Like he's fine, like good wrestler, like nothing against him, but not special at all. He has improved so damn much as a Rudo to where he's really found his calling in a way that he never had it as a technical, in my opinion. And you just see it in a match like this, which was a bold move. I think it's interesting because the match before this was Místico and Ultimo Guerrero, two guys who are big names in Japan and Mexico both. And they said, nah, screw that. We're putting Dorada and Stuka in the main event. And I thought it totally paid off because if you actually watch the whole show, you had the earlier great match with Atlantis and Hechicero, which we both loved and it's our favorite match. Then you kind of bridge it out. They had a meaningless multi-man tag between that. But then you have Místico and Ultimo Guerrero. They really got the crowd into it. The work in that match was not on the level of the other two, but the crowd interaction was very high. So that set the table for the main event to where Dorada getting the big win at the end came across like a superstar, and Stuka was just phenomenal. I thought he was a great Rudo, like reminded me of some of my favorite guys in the past, like your Rey Scorpiones and stuff like that. He's really found that edge as a Rudo, and in Mexico as well in multi-man tags, and here in this singles match. Like you said, every time he's called upon in a big situation, he delivers big, and I thought there's no doubt this is one of the best matches of the year as well. I would personally pick Atlantis and Hechicero above it, but only slightly.
Yeah, I think they're both about the same level. Yeah. And, I think the whole tour was like a good sample for people to see what CMLL is doing, or the current state of them.
And like you said, I think you made a great point. Even on that show, you had the technique of Edge Cesaro and Atlantis, the crowd support of Mystico and Ultimo Guerrero, and like the true pure like Rudo Technico vibes of the main event that you had. And then on the other show, you had a lightning match, which was like a very traditional Mexican style match. You got the big spot fest type of deal with Soberano and Templario. And then you got the long-term story with Volador and Romero. So all 6 matches had their own unique flavor and vibe to them that they built to. In hindsight, I would have liked it, I think, if they had been spread out a little bit more instead of just the last 2 nights. You could have given each show a hook, kind of, with the tournament if they had spread it out and then spread these singles matches out. But it really did. Just as a fan, it worked out for me to watch the last 2 shows. So it's not like a big deal. I just think if I were like booking the show, I would have spread them out a little bit more. But it's a very minor critique. And all 6 of them did their jobs. And there were a few like really great and cool matches that you guys should check out if you guys haven't seen them yet. Like you said, worth the price of the sub alone for that last show, night 7. Good stuff there. How did you feel though, with Atlantis? He got the big win here. What about his dad meeting a legend, Corey Taylor of Slipknot, that came out, who somehow wound up in Arena Mexico? That was a mind trip picture.
I mean, does Atlantis even know who that is?
Did either of them know who the other one was? Well, and listen, I mean, you are an Iowan through and through. If anyone knows Slipknot, you should be the one. So do you think that Corey Taylor is a Lucha Libre fan deep down?
He wore the mask. He was in the ring. He did some drills. He's got to be. That's checks all the boxes.
I mean, really, the whole band is a masked band, right?
Exactly. They were like, it's a tribute.
I think we're onto something here. All along, Slipknot has been a Lucha Libre tribute act coming in. So that's something we came in. This is a real picture, by the way. This happened. Like they actually met each other. When I was wrestling, we're going back like over 15 years now, I had a brief tag team with somebody, and he used Psychosocial as his entrance theme, and I just hated it. Like I was like, I totally was so pissed that we didn't come out. I wish that we'd come out to my song. But instead we came out to his, which was Psychosocial, which is like a hype song and everything, but really didn't fit me at all as like the emo guy. Like I needed something a little slower paced, but, I just remember hearing that song like for 2 weeks that we were teaming. I heard it like 10 times in those 2 weeks, and I was just like, I'm sick of the Slipknot crap here, but I had to bring it up though. Corey Taylor and Atlantis, the meeting we never knew what happened, and it came in here. So, with that said, we got the Fantastica Mania coming on. And the thing going on while Fantastica Mania, and the thing I loved about this is that this year they gave the tournament like a lot of main events on the show. Instead of just them doing stuff, they actually gave them the time to do main event matches, with the Torneo de Escuelas. So I like that they did that. What do you think of how the tournaments played out up to the final? It's not like it's a long tournament, but how do you think they did it this year? The thing is, if you compare it to last year's was a lot better, in my opinion.
Yeah, I would agree that last year's was a lot better. And, I think like a problem with that is that you're trying to show off these new talents, and from one year to another, I don't think there's going to be like a huge difference, or maybe like the first time you did it, you got the best guys that were around. Yeah. And so the not so good guys are going to be used next year. And that's these, I think maybe you could resolve that by doing it every few years. So you get more time between them, to develop this possible solution. But, this year, not as good as last year. Only a few of them really caught my eye as people that could be contributors to.
But not to cut you off real quick, but I want to bring up last year's a little bit because, again, shout out Cubs fan. He posted a bracket of last year's tournament and where they ended up, who stood out. So I'm going to run through these names here, and he lists 6 guys as the guys who made it full time since that tournament here. And those 6 were from last year, were Crixus, Briante Jr., Vegas, Backstar, Neon, and Fuchiro. Like Neon and Fuchiro, like Neon was, by the way, in the great Gran Alternativa final, like him and Briante Jr. were on different sides. That was like a really strong match at the start of the month that they had. So all of those guys were success stories from last year's tournament. And I pretty much agree with that. And I think Neon and Fuchiro and Backstar have like a great future. They have. You've got occasional guys, Rey Samurai, Io Stuka Jr., Mysterio Blanco, Mysterio Negro, Vaquero Jr. Yeah, like they're all around every now and then, not that much. And then Angel Rebelde is rarely it's listed as. And then everybody else didn't return. You had Historico, Principe, Tonali, Gran Jefe, Rey Insolito, Adrenalina, who was also in this tournament as well. Explosivo, Fantastico, Io Cintea Roja, Millennium, Multi, Perverso, and Prayer. That's a shame. I really liked Prayer, but yeah, he never got a look.
Yeah, I mean,
and Angel Rebelde too. Like those two guys, I would have snatched up and put more on. But you look at that class now. So do you think we could get 6 guys? None of them are on the level of Neon, but 6 guys here out of this year that you think could make it for the next year. We look at as these are the success stories.
No.
Yeah.
Out of 2 Cyberneticos, no.
Yeah.
Maybe 2 at the most.
Yeah. I mean, like there's, especially if you lost the first one. I mean, like there were a couple of guys in there that didn't even get any kind of time to shine really overall. But it was like, I think that it wasn't as good as last year, but I like the effort of it, and I hope that they do it again next year. I just think that they could probably go back to the drawing board and try and make it more like the first one overall. You look at it, and it took place the whole month too. So there's like 2 different Cyberneticos and then the final. So Mexico City team, you had Alom, Astro Boy Jr., Dragon de Fuego, Forneo, Hunter, and Legendario. He was one of the ones that stood out in my opinion. Actually, him and Astro Boy Jr. I thought were 2 of the best on Mexico City team. You had the Team Lagunera, you had Emperador Jr., Infarto, Mysterio Blanco, Mysterio Negro, Platino Kid, and Viento Negro. To me, Platino Kid stood out in his Cybernetico for the Lagoon team. So that's 3 guys in that match I caught my eye, I would say, out of the first one. Would you argue against any of those?
I would probably go with Alom.
I mean, he had the size. He's unique because he's big. He's like bigger than everybody else.
I think just because like I could do something with him, I find more like use out of him than any of the other guys.
I can see that. So we'll say Alom and Platino Kid, and I'll throw in Legendario as well. He got a focus in that match too. That's another thing with only one match. I think they already had an idea of who the best guys were, and they tried to spotlight them in each match a little bit as well. The next match was the Puebla team. You had Io Cintea Roja, again coming back, Malayo, Novato, Rayo Metallico, Rey Apocalypsis, and Zelwa here. They took on Guadalajara team, Adrenalina, Barboza, Calavera Juniors 1 and 2, the brother team, Fantastico, and Persa. So a lot of returning people from last year and the smaller groups. I feel like they tried to put Zelwa as like the guy in this match. They kind of gave him the big spotlight at the end. I liked Adrenalina last year, and I liked him as much this year, and Rey Apocalypse is okay.
Yeah.
Everyone else I could do without, to be honest.
Well, it's like, I think like, obviously they have their favorites. They know like who they want to win.
Yeah, true.
Like with every like contest in wrestling, like they know who's gonna win or who they want to win, and they're gonna make it look their best. And Shelwa, for me, the outstanding one of all this whole competition.
I agree. He was. If you picked one guy, he was the one that stood out the most.
Yeah, I think he's like the only one that's got like a future to, move up, be consistently on the show. It's him.
What about the final? Because they matched up Mexico City and Puebla team here, and again, Zelwa was the best one. I like in this match, even though he was on the losing team.
Yeah, no surprise there. I do think I like the second Cybernetico better than this one, the final.
Yeah.
But, overall, they're just like...
I mean, Puebla team is like really weak, in my opinion. Like Malayo and Novato, it's like they need to work. They have a lot to go, a long way to go.
Yeah, it's like they used the best guys last year, and they
Yeah.
didn't have any left over.
Mexico City team was all right. Like I said, I don't think anybody was like actually bad on their team. They just weren't stand out at all. Like I said, I like Legendario, Astro Boy well enough. Alom, you've got the good look. So they probably, if you look at the teams, they were probably the best overall team, even though the best guy was on the Puebla show.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I get it. It's fine. It didn't stand up to last year. Like last year's was like phenomenal and like was so good and everybody gained from it. Here, like you said, it's like you're saying like one guy and I'm saying like maybe three at most, and that's probably generous. And last year you had 6, and really there were a couple of guys that I felt they missed out on. So you can really go as high as 10 guys that stood out last year, and here you're like 1, maybe 2 or 3 if we're being nice. But still, I like the concept and I'll defend it on that level, and I hope they bring it back. But Puebla team, I think they probably need to rewire some things going on there. But yeah, still good stuff there to go into, and it leads us to the big show coming up next month as well. Dos Leyendas coming in here this year. Tony Salazar getting the legend treatment here, getting the tribute and all that stuff that's going to come about it. The big news on this show here, and it's going to kind of lead us to our big talking point, is the BCC of AEW coming in for Dos Leyendas in an 8-man tag team match in the main event. First of all, what do you think of this card? Let's talk about Dos Leyendas on its own, and then we'll get to the grand scope of AEW, because I know a bunch of people are probably wanting us to talk about that.
Okay, it starts out with a tag team match for the tag titles, and that's between Magnus and Rujito versus Briante Jr. and Neon. And this is going to be the 4th defense for Magnus and Rujito.
First of all, first and foremost, Neon is my guy. Like, I love this dude so much, and I always have. Him and Futuro both, but him especially, like, I see a superstar when I see him. It's kind of cool that they're both fighting on the same side, because they were apart in that Gran Alternativa final they had. And I like that they're kind of getting a tag match out of it here. Magnus and Rujito are pretty good Rudos, I would say. Magnus is all right. I think Rujito has a little bit more there, but I think this is going to be a showcase for the technicals. I could see them getting the win here, but to me, Neon and Futuro are a better team than Briante and Neon, so I would rather the Rudos keep it to maybe lead to another defense. But, the title matches are not that important. So, like, to be honest, when I look at this card, you could argue they tried to add a little bit with the title matches, but just for me, as somebody who's been watching Lucha Libre for 20 plus years now, I just feel like it doesn't move me that much overall, and I think we could have gotten something better for Neon, in my opinion. But it should be a good opener, though. I'm excited for it.
With Magnus and Rujito, I think that they've kind of reached their ceiling when they've worked with guys on the Friday shows, especially, Neon and Futuro. And they have matches together. I think that Neon and Futuro, they've really outgrown them as opponents.
I totally agree.
They're ready to take that next step. And I think if they win, Briante Jr. and Neon win here, this would be keeping them down at a certain level. I wouldn't want to see that. I want to see them, move up and, reach the main events eventually, keep working towards that. But yeah, they have to, aspire to someone more than, Magnus and Rujito.
I mean, I hope so for their sake, for sure. But I totally agree. Like, Neon and Futuro should be like, maybe not the main events, but way up the card. Like, they're not opening match guys, even on pay-per-views and big shows like this. And Briante Jr., I like him, but I don't think he's as good as Neon and Futuro ultimately. No. Yeah, like he's cool as a young guy. Like, I dig him. Yeah. It's cool. But like, let's be honest, you see Neon and Futuro, and it's like, whoa, these guys are like next level of the young guys that the company needed big time here. Yep. But even still, all of these guys are better than Esfinge, who's in the next match.
Oh Lord, yeah. Esfinge is gonna be taking on Zanokan Jr. for the light heavyweight title. So Esfinge, he's on a roll.
Oh yeah, big major star that he's been built up to be in AEW.
Now this is a matchup where it gets risky for him because Sandoka Jr. he's got the machine behind him.
And he's actually good as well, so that's gonna weigh things against this Finhay in this match. It's one of those things, again, the titles mean so little to me, it's almost like winning, like you said in the first match, like you made a great point, winning almost holds them down. And I kind of feel the same about Zandokan, who's like, I love him. Like, I think he's a great young Rudo that they need to get behind, so charismatic and such a great, well-rounded Rudo player. He's much better than this Finhay, in my opinion. Do I want to see him hold this Mexican light heavyweight title or go for bigger things in the future? That's the only thing holding him back, because obviously I think he would be a much better champion than this Finhay. But you do have to wonder, with the BCC here, it's very possible that Tony Khan himself could be in the audience for this show, or definitely at least watching it. I think every single person on this show is going to be motivated to put their absolute best effort to impress and try to get that big spot that you could get. And I think if you watch these two, unless something happens and like somebody just goes blind during the show somehow, you will see that Zandokan Jr. deserves a spot more than this Finhay here. But sure, like give him the belt on there.
You know, I noticed something. You see these names in these first two matches. They've also been on AEW television.
That's right. And Zandokan was in New Japan for the tag league.
Yep, almost like they're trying to make an impression on someone. This leads to the next match, Barbaro Cavernario versus Averno for the CMLL Light Heavyweight Championship. Barbaro Cavernario is the champion. And this has kind of been like, hurried title match.
Yeah, a pretty basic build, but, Cavernario is one of those guys who went through a phase of it felt like he wasn't that motivated. He kind of lost a step, but I feel like he's regained himself a little bit the last year or so. And Averno is one of my all-time favorites, and I still love him now. Even in the trios that they do, with Mephisto and Euphoria, I think they work really well together, and he's just awesome. Like everything about him is great. There's no reason this match cannot impress everybody. I think that Cavernario will take the much more, technical style here of the two, even though they're both technically Rudos. I think Cavernario is going to get a lot of shine. Averno is going to make him look like $1 zillion. And it should be a really great match. Out of all the matches on the show, obviously the main event is a spectacle to have Bryan Danielson and the BCC in Arena Mexico. But in terms of a match quality, it wouldn't surprise me at all if this was the best match on the show.
Yeah, I could see that. And something that nobody is expecting to be the best match is going to be this minis match right here. That's a cage match for the remaining person that's in the cage will lose their mask. So point of the match is to escape the cage, save the mask. And it's going to be between Angelito, Pierrotito, Acero, and Pequeño Olímpico. And right away, there's a big clue as to who's going to be the last person in that cage.
I think right away you look at one member of these four that's older than the other, and they are the one that is going to end up lost in time with their mask. But what's with this match, though? Like, why was this the big push on this show here? You have the main event. Again, obviously to American fans, yes, it's a big deal, but these guys are all new players, to CMLL fans in a lot of ways. Now, your big second match is the micro match here. What? And a cage match on top of it.
Yeah, the minis, they just had their cage match. I don't see the reason why they should have another one. Maybe, nobody else is willing to lose a mask, I guess. I don't know.
Is that where we're at now? Like, none of the stars are like, nah, we can't do this. We can't lose our hair or anything like that. And they're just like, screw it. We'll find somebody to take the mask. And they just ended up with these four. And a 4-man cage match on top of it with the mask. It's everything about this blows to me.
Everyone's just, waiting for September to... knock on someone's door and be like, all right, let's do it. But, since this isn't the big show, they're not happy about it. I don't know why they're doing this. Yeah, you wish it was something else, something more meaningful. I guess this is just like something that has to happen on this show.
What do you think of the idea of putting the minis match and the women back to back here? Because you start off with the 3 title matches, and then you get to this weird like middle of the show, heading to a main event, which really it's not like there's the main thing is to see the top talent in AEW in Arena Mexico. There's no stakes or anything about it. No titles, no masks, no hair, blah blah blah. It's probably going to set up some stuff, don't get me wrong, and it's a big match. I'm not saying it's not. But you go from that, you see the titles matches at the beginning, and then this weird middle. What do you think of them putting the minis and the women back to back?
I think that it's their way to show everyone that they view all these people equally or value them equally. They've given the women the main event before, and that took a lot of fans were really demanding that to happen. Believe it or not, CMLL fans demanding this.
And they usually delivered when they put them in big spots in the past.
Yeah. So,
but this isn't a major match though. This is just a random 6-woman tag just to get Willow a shot. It seems like.
Yeah. No stakes at all.
Why is Yuvia in this match?
It's like Yuvia's in every big match.
We were talking about this because she's the one who got the tour in Japan for seemingly the 12th time, along with Harachita, and I can't escape this woman. Yuvia is everywhere you turn, whether it's in big shows, pay-per-views, smaller shows, Japan. She's gonna be in AEW by the end of this.
Dallas left, but now we have Yuvia take that role. Yeah, the women's match. Yuvia, Stephanie Vacker, and Zoxys versus La Catalina, Tessa Blanchard, and Willow Nightingale. What can be said about this? They did set up Vacker versus La Catalina from their singles match that they had, where Vacker, she used the ropes. Well, first of all, I think she used the ropes for leverage to get the pinfall. And then, second of all, she held on to the arm bar, sling over the top rope. So she was hanging over there with La Catalina's arm in the arm bar, wouldn't let go. Ref DQ'd her, gave the win to Catalina. And that was a bit of a double turn there, where Vacker is, cemented as a Ruda, and Catalina is now a Technica. So, that's really the main women's program that they're going with, is both Chilenas having their match, and maybe that would be a hair match, worthy of a big show. But I don't think they're gonna go that far.
Yeah, I was about to say, Vacker is one of the biggest international stars, and Catalina would be crazy to shave her. So
yeah, so I don't.
But
think they're gonna do that.
It was a good angle though, to the arm injury. Not revolutionary storytelling or anything, but still, it was really well done. Vacker is very good as a brutalizer type Ruda, and she got to show that off. That gives us a little bit of something. The rest, Yuvia, I'm definitely not a fan of, but the rest can all work. Willow is a really strong performer in AEW. She's one of those, with the women's division in AEW, sometimes people can disappear for a while, and I think she's kind of in that phase where she's not really doing a lot on TV, and definitely not Dynamite. But she's a really good worker, and I think that this will be a chance for her to have some fun here in Arena Mexico. Everybody try and show off a little bit, and hopefully for CML's sake, you can build to the Vacker and Catalina feud a little bit more. Because the other ones, there's no real rhyme or reason, just a random women's 6-woman tag here.
Yep, and so that leads us to the next match, which is actually going to be the Parejas Increíbles final, and that's the winner of the A block versus the winner of the B block. And they've announced the A block. That's, I think, this Friday. we will get one of the finalists. I have it right here. The A block is going to be Akuma and Ilse Gardenia, which is, these teams are made of two rivals. So they're going to have to team up together and try to win this tournament. The winner gets a trophy and nothing more. So
big stakes here.
Yeah, big
but
stakes.
To be honest though, there has been like in the past, I don't think it's going to be this year. Like they've really like it's a small tournament. Like they've got like they went from 8 teams to like 4 teams in each block. So, but there have been like legendary moments in the past where you had like Mystico teases Rudo turn, is one of the legendary ones. But so they might pull off something big here, but I wouldn't expect it to be honest.
Yeah, I mean sometimes they pull out like the Anniversario match out of this.
Yeah, that's happened plenty of times. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, could it happen here? Maybe.
Is Akuma main eventing at Anniversario this year? Him and Dolce Gardenia. Is that where we're going?
Well, that's kind of one of the more heated matchups in this tournament.
Might be right about that.
Another one would be Euphoria and Gran Guerrero. I'm not sure that's going to happen. But Ángel de Oro and Flip Gordon are a team, and Máscara Dorada and Rocky Romero also. So they're right away they're the pulling ahead as the big winners.
Yeah, I was about to say, like that team, it clears all the other 3 pretty easily, in my opinion.
Yep. I don't see how they're going to lose. And I wouldn't want to see them lose either because, it would be a great addition to the show if they made it on there. And we would have to wait for the next block to find out who else would be on the show, possibly. I look at the card and, you can see right away Atlantis Jr. is not on the show. So he's probably going to be in the tournament. His partner has to be Soberano Jr.
That's exactly who I was thinking of, the team that I thought would advance on that side.
Yeah, so that'd be another really strong match to add to the show if that were to happen. Another team I think that could be on the other block would be Dragon Rojo and Templario. They could also be a spoiler.
I'm all about one of those two on that team. The other one I really question, and that one I question may have been in the main event last year of Anniversario. But yeah, I like if you put Atlantis and Soberano versus Dorada and Rocky, that could be like that might be a show stealing type of match if you put those guys in there. They have went back and forth a bit lately with Oro and Flip, but I think that if you want the match on Dos Leyendas, you would want Dorada to get a big spotlight on there. And Rocky, they trust a lot. He's like a guy they lean on. I think it makes all the sense for those 4 names to be the tag match overall. And maybe we'll be disappointed it'll be some random team that faces them in the end. But on paper, if they do that, I definitely think that could be like a match of the night level match as well.
Yeah, and the one match I would want out of there to snowball into the Anniversario match would be Soberano Atlantis Jr.
Absolutely.
That's the one, But will they hold off on it? Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Both guys, I think, are really young and could go for a few more years.
They want to play off Euphoria and Guerrero, like their history with each other. If they want to blow something off this year, I mean, you have all the build for that if you want.
And I'm not feeling that.
Yeah, I understand. You're right. You're right. I'm just throwing out suggestions. That's all.
This leads us to the last match, the main event. The BCC, Bryan Danielson, Claudio Castagnoli, Jon Moxley, Wheeler Utah versus Blue Panther, Mystico, Ultimo Guerrero, and Volador Jr. CMLL All-Star Team versus the Bullet Club, whatever.
The Blackpool, don't compare them. Do not ever say Bryan Danielson is a Bullet Club member in front of me. We will never allow that. It's the Blackpool Club, Combat Club, not the Bullet Club.
Yeah, I don't see any other result other than CMLL winning and completely burying them in victory.
Totally one-sided.
Yes.
You think Mystico is just gonna like dance on all of them after they beat him?
Yes. For 5 minutes.
To be honest, like, to me, this is clearly going to set up, like, I don't know how, like, they got them to listen to him to do this, but it feels like Bryan and Panther is going to be a major match this year. Bryan's dream match, I don't know why. And not that I'm against that. We should all listen to Bryan Danielson because he knows wrestling better than everyone ever, pretty much. So I like it. I like him being here. You could have put 7 goofballs in this match, and it would still be great, would be my expectation if Bryan is in it. But the BCC are all good workers. Claudio, I'm sure, is going to be super hyped. I know him and Hero, when they were a team, the Kings of Wrestling, really wanted to be there in Arena Mexico. The other two can get it done, and I'm sure they'll do some kind of brawling stuff with Moxley and somebody. They kind of had teased on the AEW that Moxley and Volador might have something going on, so I could see them pairing off as something. Mystico is going to clown Yuta probably in their interactions and get the big pop from the fans. And I think that Panther and Bryan are going to take the spotlight here to set up a match in the future. But I could see it going either way, because part of me thinks that Bryan would advocate to, like, if they were to do an Apuestas match, Bryan would want to lose here, regardless of logic. So I could see it going either way, really. But I do think that's how it's going to end, is Panther and Bryan.
Yeah, I think, the roof is going to come unglued for this match. I think Blue Panthers is going to send everyone. Mystico, he has to be in here. Same with Volador. Ultimo Guerrero was the person that you weren't really expecting because he hasn't been on the CML shows regularly. If you watched him on the New Japan shows, he's been favoring his arm, for injury. Maybe, I don't know if a fracture was there or not, but yeah, he was at times just working with one arm. He's still, total pro. He knows what he's doing, and I don't think it will be a problem for him, even if he is down to one arm. He's just, a legend, and I think all these guys on the CML team are legends in their own way. And I don't see Team AEW getting the win here in any fashion. Yeah, I think Danielson is going to be great against anybody. Same with Claudio. You see a lot of lucha influence in his work and what he can do. He can work with everybody. And Moxley, yeah, same thing.
He could do some brawling stuff.
Yeah, he can really just work the crowd. I think he's going to get off on the energy. And Wheeler Utah is, going to be a great learning experience for him. I think the match is going to be fantastic.
Yeah, there's no reason this can't be an excellent, match of the year level match with these 8 here. And like you said, the crowd is going to be like nuclear for the CMLL team. These are all superstar names here. And getting the advent of major American stars coming in, which is really the first time you've seen something. Obviously, you could say what you want about AEW compared to WWE, but the fact is they're a TV product in America with guys who have been top stars there as well. So you're getting big names in Arena Mexico for a main event. There's no stakes to it or anything like that, like I mentioned before, which could be seen as a negative, but just the fact that it's these guys and just the fact that the matchup has all of the star power in it, it really does feel like an all-star game, pretty much, between AEW and CMLL. Like, our best guys versus your best guys, and we'll see what happens out of it. And I do think it'll set some things up, for sure. And, it could be a fantastic match. I could totally see CMLL winning as well. And Ultimo Guerrero, he wasn't the expected guy, but listen, if it comes down to him and Star Jr., I think that they made the right call overall putting Ultimo Guerrero in, even though Esfinge and Star Jr. have been on AEW. They went with star power over familiarity.
Is there anyone you would like to see added to the match that wasn't in it?
I think the BCC are like the perfect people for this. Like I said, it could have really been Bryan and anybody, but the fact that they're all faction makes perfect sense from the AEW side. A lot of AEW guys I don't think would actually work here very well, especially not in a main event scenario. Not that they don't have talented wrestlers in AEW. I'm not saying that they don't. I just think for this particular match, in the context of it, the BCC are the perfect people from the AEW side. On the CMLL side, They went with the star power here. Like, that was their goal here. They were not trying to pick all of the best workers. Like, obviously, like somebody like, if Soberano isn't in the tag match, then yeah, he would be like one of the first guys I would want to do something with people on here. Besides that, I think they had a game plan, though. This team makes perfect logical sense in the parameters of this match. So I don't think they could have done really a better job in terms of star power for this match overall. Obviously, another person I think I would have liked to have seen is Hechicero in the match as well. If you could have got him, instead of Ultimo, if they need a replacement or something, if that injury talk you were saying comes to pass, he would probably be the guy because he has the most experience with them on the AEW side. And I think this also could be a major match for American fans. Like, if you have never seen CMLL in its natural home in Arena Mexico, this is where you want to go. This is the match that's going to draw you in. And I think somebody like that would have been my end. But for their goals, I think this was basically the best team you could have in terms of the star power. But yeah, what do you think of this show overall? Like this card coming in, Dos Leyendas here.
I think that they're kind of sticking with the format here with having title matches support the two bigger matches that are going to be Apuestas, for the big shows. And here they got a special match planned, so that's going to take the place of a mask or hair match. But I think I see them using the same format going forward. And, overall, I think it's going to be a really good show.
It's a pretty strong card on paper. Ideally, you would have wanted to have a match with, like, major stakes to it. But this is the main event. Do you think that this could set? Do you think that Bryan and Panther could realistically be an Anniversario like level match, like main event level?
Like, yeah, I think so.
Yeah,
it could be, but does Bryan carry the same weight in Mexico City like he does in the U.S.? I don't know.
Yeah, that's the thing. I always say that even when he went to Japan, he really hasn't wrestled here entirely for his whole career. I think that he's going to be very warmly received, however, by the fans. I expect this to go over like gangbusters, like this match here, and I think Bryan will come across like a major star. If they, especially, what I do hope comes out of it, if that is the plan, like that's their big idea, Bryan and Panther for the Anniversario. I hope they let Bryan do more stuff in Mexico, like for a decently consistent. I'm not saying he has to be there all 9 months or anything leading up to it, or all 8 months leading up to it. But he needs to be doing stuff to constantly keep this feud in motion and this rivalry in motion as much as they can. I think that would be the best option if that is the goal of this.
Yeah, I think that was missing for this match to heat up.
Yeah, I agree.
Having them in Mexico appear, do something. But yeah.
And they even had the thing with Thunder Rosa in the crowd. You couldn't have had these guys like go in the crowd, throw drinks at somebody, something. So similar to what the CMLL guys did in AEW.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. That should have been there. And they've still got time. I mean, maybe they could do something like that if they want. At best, we'll probably get like an Informa run for BCC will be the build-up, which could be the idea of Bryan talking to JCR could be very amusing at the end.
Yeah. Well, when I think about how Bryan will do in Mexico or in CML in front of these fans, it's like, CML fans are kind of seen as like snobby, where they kind of like have that reputation of like knowing more about wrestling than like a common fan would. So I think, they'll probably like know who Bryan is, and, they'll probably like might even cheer him more than like the people on the CML team.
I could totally see that happening. And even if you don't know him, you're going to watch him once and he's going to be your favorite. At the end, like him? He's the best. Of course I love him at the end. So the match will be great. The show should be very good, and I think that there's a couple of matches, depending on how the Parejas Increíbles tournament plays out. I think that it's going to be a really good show overall. You've got multiple matches that could steal things by the end, and the main event is obviously going to be highly anticipated by everyone. So with that said, how do you think that, we mentioned it a second ago, how do you think that AEW has handled the CMLL stars? They did the angle where all of their guys, you had Mascara Dorada, Volador, Hechicero, they all rushed the ring to attack BCC in the first place. Mystico was there. You had promos getting cut on social media with Volador, basically saying, hey, bring it to our house. And Moxley was like, yeah, we're coming. And they set things up there. They've had physical stuff. They've had matches. Obviously, the biggest one and the best one by far, in my opinion, was Hechicero versus Bryan Danielson in a singles match, which was like a phenomenal match, as everybody knew it would be. But they've had multi-man tags on Dynamite, on Collision as well. They gave Mascara Dorada a big spot in Dynamite in the 6-man tag they had. They've shown respect to these guys pretty well, I would say. When this all first started happening, I had low expectations for it. I just want to say that. But I think they've gone above what I thought they would, and definitely better than anything they even thought about. It shows you they're like so much more serious about this relationship with CMLL than they ever were with AAA.
Yeah, I mean, like, yeah, you see what they've done with TNA and AAA, and it's like they took them for fools, and it's nothing like with this CMLL relationship. And I think a lot has to do with the way CMLL has imposed on AEW, what they want out of this. And because, they're the ones that had, the power and the decision, to accept this or not. And AEW were the ones that really wanted this to happen. Unlike, with the other ones, with TNA, AAA, they were like begging to be on the show. All the way around with CMLL, yeah, they're getting really good treatment out of this, and working with the top guys in the company. Not even CMLL's top guys are working them. They're like actually like more mid carders than main eventers that have been working on the CMLL or the AEW shows.
I'm sorry, Micro. I never thought I'd see the day as Finhay had a TV role in America, but that's what happened.
Yeah, that's a miracle. And, him and Star Jr. Well, I think Star Jr. did great in his time that he got there. To think like, yeah, you didn't have like these type of expectations because at first, you had Mystico versus Rocky, and then nothing happened for like months. And then to go to this, I think this took a lot of planning between the two, and they came up with something good, and an agreement was made, and they went through with it. And it's just really good, and it really makes CML look good that they could pull this off.
And I think the hope of it is, too, that they could be seen on a similar level to New Japan and what they are to AEW. There's been times where these companies have dipped their toes in the water of a CMLL relationship. Obviously, that like Ring of Honor had their War of the World shows and stuff in the past, so they did their best with it. But here is a situation where you're on national television, like every week in front of hundreds of thousands of fans. Which is a big deal. Like for like the CMLL Luchadores, they're not usually having 800,000 fans watch their matches at the end of the day. So to step up like that, you get the prestige of working in America anyway. And I think the efforts of a Rocky Romero can't be understated in utilizing all of this, because obviously everybody knows the New Japan and the CMLL relationship has been around for decades and been such an important deal to not just the company, but the Luchadors themselves for having that goal to try and make it onto Fantastica Mania to Japan. Just going there is that big deal. And now you have this other option with America now, to where if they play their cards right with this, they're going to be able to say, hey, this is now a goal in and of itself. If you are a dude for CMLL for this year and you do great things, maybe you could be on the Forbidden Door, for example, in a CMLL match. And they could use that as well. So we're still very early on in this relationship. There's the thing with any wrestling relationship is 99% of the time it's going to fall apart. But CMLL in New Japan has lasted the test of time, and I do agree that I think a lot of that is CMLL's way, pretty much, of doing things. They've had their positives and their negatives, but they are as steadfast as any wrestling company in existence. And I think if you keep things going the right track, they're going to keep their end of the bargain as well. So it's very exciting to see this kind of level. And a lot of the AEW fans, they really took to these guys. I mean, like I said, Hechicero and Bryan, everybody was saying, man, Hechicero, like, who is this guy? Like, we've got to see more of him. Like, this brother's incredible. The gimmick, he brought back the fire deal, which he hadn't really been doing that for a long time. No, actually it's CMLL proper, but he comes to the AEW and bam, the fire's back, and everybody's like, whoa, who's this fire guy that's coming in here? And then he wrestles like an expert, and he is an expert, and he's a legendary performer in the ring. And now to see everybody see it, and all these people love Hechicero, man, it was so cool to see. And I think it's great how they've used them, and I've been very impressed with AEW's usage of the Luchadores, and I hope that this continues how they're doing it. And I also think it's very nice that they started this in AEW as well. I think that's another good thing. They didn't start it somewhere, where they would say, oh, well, this happened, and then we don't even know anything about it. But, the AEW fans don't even know anything about it. They showed us. They didn't just tell us. They showed us what these guys are about. And hopefully that continues on. I don't think they're really on. They're scheduled for anything in the near future, but I do hope that they can do a few more matches to build that up. And like you said, you made a great comparison. When it was AAA and TNA and all of that, there would be a major, like Kenny Omega would be in the main event of these shows, and we wouldn't hear anything about it on Dynamite. They wouldn't even mention the show. I hope that they don't do that here. I hope they really hit it hard. Hey, you can watch CMLL on YouTube. Dos Leyendas is coming up. They're honoring legends. Tournament finals are happening. Mass match. Like, you've got everything you want. I hope they hit that home heading into the show, and if not, give them another segment for CMLL. But with that said, yeah, I think that's about it for CMLL, really. I love what they're doing with AEW and all of that. Before we get on out of here, I know I wanted to talk about a big indie match here, Wotan and Trauma 1. Now, if you aren't familiar with these guys, they are both like indie dudes, like of Lucha Libre. Like, these guys have been around forever. Trauma 1, especially like with his brother, have been like all over the indies for years and years and years, pretty much here. And they had a big match here for the mask here. And Micro, what did you think of this here? Trauma 1 and Wotan going at it and having this match here.
Wotan is like a really big named deathmatch guy in Mexico, and he really built up a mass match against Hijo del Fishman. That match was actually planned for a 2020 show, and of course, the pandemic derailed those plans, and the match got delayed. It got postponed actually for the following year, and the promoter backed out, and the match never happened. And people say that's one of the people who kept shifting the price of their mask, and that's why it never happened. But who knows? And since then, Hijo del Fishman, he got poached by Hijo del Santo. And he's become like his main opponent, default opponent, whenever he has his touring match still going on. So Wotan moved on to Trauma 1, and they culminated to this mask match. And yeah, Trauma 1 comes out victorious. Wotan, who is Impulso's brother, unmasked, and to the surprise of everyone, he looks a lot like Impulso.
They fooled everyone. It's a relationship that wasn't worked for once in Lucha Libre.
Yeah, maybe it was twin magic. Who knows?
Fake Wotan. This is a sign of his AAA debut is incoming. No, to set that up. Trauma 1, his biggest moment was like him and Canis Lupus a few years ago. Their mask match is like a legendary match like one of the best mass matches, like a very old school, bloody brawl, emotional, and everything about it was so great. So I do want to check this out. I'm putting it out there because I think that this match, if it could be, I don't think it'll be as good as that, but I do think it can reach the levels of a great, great match, especially for a brawling, Apuestas match like this. But yeah, I think that's about it for this episode. Micro, do you have anything else you want to talk about before we get on out of here?
No, I think that was all that's happened over the past month. And you can find me on Twitter at MicromanFever. Get to me on there about anything, really. I'm interested in all sorts of topics, subjects.
Check Micro out on Twitter. And you can follow me at Viva_0. I, too, will talk about a lot of topics. And by a lot, I mean I basically only know wrestling and sports and maybe video games sometimes. I will talk to you about anything you like to give you the best I can. Listen to my other show, Eastern Lariat, if you like Japanese wrestling. We briefly went over Fantastica Mania, but not nearly as much as me and Micro did here. We mainly talked about all the other craziness going on in New Japan right now, which was headache-inducing, to be honest. But we talked about all of that. We talked about EO Dr. Wagner Jr. Winning the GHC belt. What did you think about that, Micro? Like him actually winning the title. Like I don't think anybody actually expected that. At the time.
I mean, from going from the guy that I saw in Lucha Libre Elite to where he is now, it's really like astounding that he's had this kind of a upcurrent in his career and become the main champion in a promotion. That's incredible. I've been fortunate enough to watch his work, his recent work, and yeah, he's improved a lot. He's been doing what his father has done before. He's kind of copied a bit. But, that's like, he's allowed to do that, he's his son. So I don't see a problem with it. I think, yeah, he's improved a lot, gotten a lot better, and really, like, has, that star charisma that, his father also had. Maybe not as much, but, he's a star,
Yeah, it's very hard to have as much as his dad, I would say. But like you said, I mean, if you go back and listen to the original Lucha Talk episodes, whenever he came up, we were like, man, this guy is not that great at all. And for whatever reason, he seemed to find himself when they gave him the national title last year. He held it all year. And above everything else, we have to give him credit for being a smooth negotiator. Not only did he get the belt, but in his contract, he's gained the ability to leave Japan for 4 months of the year. So he can basically just chill out now as the champion. Like, he holds the belt. I know he's doing a shot. My co-host on Eastern Layer at Striga, he's going to see him live. See Wagner Jr. live in their 16-carat tournament at WXW, which he's going to be competing in. And I don't know how he's going to lose being the champion and all of the thing, but whatever. We'll see how that goes. Just having a great year last year. Very well respected. Shout out to him. Doing big things in Pro Wrestling Noah as well. So you got him too. EO Dr. Wagner Jr. and Diamante is the Dragon Gate champion right now, the Open the Dream Gate champion. So Mexicans doing big things in Japan right now in Japanese pro wrestling. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, like, they always brought in as like this special attraction or, just, something different. But, being the top guys in each promotion, that's really, a new territory for them.
And it's amazing to think, like, we saw when Diamante's another guy we saw in the early days in CMLL. He was like in the original En Busca de un Ídolo tournament. And he's grown a lot. Let me tell you, he's way different now than he was back then, going in there. But, yeah, those guys, check them out, doing big things in Japan. Listen to Eastern Lariat. My other show, my third show, Wrestle Update, is all about American wrestling. The latest episode isn't about AEW or anything. We're going to talk about that next week. But we did a show on WWE's Elimination Chamber. Me and my friend Jessie of Talking Triple Crown, she was there at the show live. We hung out and talked. I had a great time talking about Elimination Chamber, the live experience, and all the stuff that happened there. So 3 different areas of the globe. I cover all of them. Hopefully I do a good job to you guys, and hopefully you had fun listening. We appreciate everyone listening. Let us know what you think about wrestling, lucha libre, anything you want, any topics. But until next time, adios.